Now there's a new way to get in touch with the Politicrat Daily podcast by email at politicratpod@gmail.com. That's politicratpod at gmail.com. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar. It is Saturday, January the 30th, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat, the need to vaccinate. Why is all of this misinformation out here? What you can do to combat the misinformation and the lies, plus a couple of other things, I think you will find to be of benefit to you. Coming up next. Welcome back. Before I get into the main topic for this episode, I want to offer a couple of things that I think you should take into account. I hope you're well on this Saturday, and I hope you are doing the best you can every single day, and how you're feeling is better than perhaps you felt the day before and the day before and the day before. I know that moods are variable among us all, right? We all have the ups and downs of our days, nights, the situations that affect our moods, the joys, the setbacks. That's what life is all about, of course, we all know. I did an episode earlier this week about beginning your day in a better frame of mind, in a healthier, more affirmative and empowering frame of mind. I do not know whether you tried any of the things that I had asked of you, because maybe they didn't work for you at all. Maybe it was a complete hodgepodge for you, and it's like, what is he talking about? This doesn't work. And of course, that's completely understood by yours truly. By the way, I should say, on the way to getting to my point here in this first part of this episode, there is a way to get in touch with this podcast that you hear on a daily basis. And as you may have discerned from the opening, pre-open, if you will, there is an email address now attached to this daily podcast. You can get in touch with the podcast at the following email address: politicratpod@gmail.com. That's politicratpod@gmail.com. Politicrat, P-O-D, as in Delta, at gmail.com. That is a way to get in touch with the podcast. So, whether you tried these exercises or not, whether they made a difference to you or not, I want to provide something for you to at least mull over for a few short moments. Obviously, this pandemic that we are all experiencing on this planet has changed our lives in some way, shape, or form. Even those who are the uber rich have seen some material adjustment in their lives. If they have children, Are they going to be homeschooling them, or are they going to be doing something else? Yes, they can afford to do all these things, but still, that's a change in their life, right? If they're going from private school, presumably, perhaps in some cases, or public school, and they're now going to homeschool, that is a change. Now, it might be a more comfortable change because they can adjust to it more readily than someone who is making less than, $50,000, $100,000 a year. But my whole point in saying that is that this pandemic has changed a facet of everybody's life in some way, shape, or form. For those who don't have a roof over their head, for those who are literally using the streets as their home, things are worse for them. Now, what I'm getting at here is, what adjustments are you making? Have you been able to make adjustments during this pandemic? Whether those adjustments have been costly or not, have you been able to do them? That's number one. Number two, if you have suffered a loss of your job over these last 12 months, if you have suffered some kind of setback in that vein or another, what might you be doing, or what have you been doing to try to either not offset it, because you can't offset certain things, but what are you doing as a substitute? Whatever that might be, whether it's looking for employment, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's whatever. One thing I really do suggest to you is to find something that you are good at, that you know you are good at, and try to parlay what that is into something you do. In fact, I would say this to people, whether you are working or whether you are not working, to do this. Are you a good problem solver? Are you a good singer? Are you a good dancer? Are you a good writer? Are you a good whatever it might be? I want you to up that good thing that you do, in addition to your day job, if you have one or if you don't have one. And I want you to work on it. I want you to hone it. I want you to craft it. I want you to believe in it. And I want you to start doing that yesterday. Don't even wait until February the 1st, which is Monday. I want you to do that yesterday. I want you to craft, to hone, to refine, to believe. And I want you to ignore all the doubters. I want you to ignore all of the people who tell you that, nah, you can't do that. That's going to be too much. I want you to ignore those people, because those people are acting, I believe, many of them, out of fear, and also out of their own personal, private jealousy. In some of those cases, those negatives coming from those people is them saying to you that they do not want you to succeed at this endeavor that you may be trying to do. That is not to say that some people that tell you that no, what you're trying to do cannot be done, don't have some concern. They may well be coming at you, or to you, I should say, with a sense of genuine concern. Can you take this other thing on? However, support is needed. And if you discern that the people in your life, some of them at least, are telling you that you can't do something, and they don't seem to have any real articulable reason for it, you just have to keep going. In fact, no matter what anybody says, keep going with that good thing that you know that you can do, the positive thing. And I want you to keep soaring at what it is you are doing in this world that's contributing to making the world a better, safer, more inclusive, and more just place. And in your own life, if there is something that you're contributing and you now find that this pandemic has somewhat stunted that or arrested that or cauterized that, and it's beating you down and you're wondering, oh my God, damn it, I can't do this anymore because I've had it. Maybe you're thinking something like that. You know what I say to that and what I say to you is to keep going. There are going to be days that will be more challenging, but you have to keep going. I know that may be easy to say if you live on easy street, but you have to keep going. Find that thing that you do, and I want you to amplify it. That's your homework. That is your homework. In fact, that's your everyday work. Home or not home, that's your work. I want you to tap into that good thing you have, and I want you to use it for your benefit and, by extension, benefit of people around you and the world around you. I want you to do that, even if it's just personal to you. Just if you want to benefit it for yourself, do so. That's the first thing you have to do. If we want to change this world, at some point we are going to have to better ourselves. Are we not? We all have something in this world, in this life, that we are good at. Now is the time to shine, to show yourself what you are made of. It is your time, and it is your time to shine.
Let's begin with an overview of the data. Despite some encouraging trends in COVID-19 cases and hospital admissions, the occurrence of COVID-19 remains extraordinarily high in the United States. We continue to have over 4 times the daily number of cases as we had over the summer. Through January 27th, 25.4 million COVID-19 cases have been reported to CDC. During the week of January 21st to January 27th, the 7-day average of new cases decreased 16.6% to 161,832 per day. The 7-day average of new hospital admissions of patients with COVID-19 during the week of January 20th to January 26th decreased by 14% to 12,720 per day. However, over 99,000 people were hospitalized with COVID-19 on January 26th. 427,626 deaths have been reported since January 22nd through January 22nd, 2020. During the week of January 21st to January 27th, the 7-day average number of deaths increased 7.5% to 3,277 per day. And yesterday we saw our 6th day of over 4,000 deaths. We continue to remain concerned about the emergence of variants in the United States and are rapidly ramping up surveillance and sequencing activities as we work to closely monitor and identify variants as they emerge. Any information we have, we will then share with you as rapidly as possible.
That was Dr. Rochelle Walensky yesterday during a COVID-19 task force briefing. She is the director of the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. The vaccines are finally being administered in many places Now, there are some countries that are not going to see much of any vaccine. Only 10% of a lot of the countries in the world. Each of those countries, only 10% of them, 10% of the population of some countries, only 10% will receive vaccination shots against COVID-19. This is a catastrophe, to say the very least. In fact, that's a rather inadequate word, isn't it? The poorest countries, and this is what I spoke with Dr. Cindy Duke about last month, and she brought this up, the People's Vaccine Alliance, the People's Vaccine Alliance movement. That is a global movement. It's comprised of doctors and various scientists who are really trying to make sure that this vaccine, or these multiple vaccines, because there's more than one of them, that you can get. Of course, you have to get 2 doses of the same one. It's not like you can get 1 shot from one and 1 shot from another. That's not how it works. But the point is that the People's Vaccine Alliance, the movement, are made up of doctors and scientists, and they are people who are wanting to make sure that this vaccine is distributed equitably all over the world to black people, brown people, all kinds of people, so that there isn't this treatment that favors the rich. Well, we already know, right, that that's always been a part of a system based on capitalism and greed, and a system controlled by the rich. Of course, the rich are going to get this first. But the People's Vaccine Alliance movement is trying to advocate, or they are advocating, but slow down this torrent of affirmative action for the rich. Because that's what the society is. That's what the system is. That's what capitalism is. It's this kind of crude and evil. It's a psychopathic thing, sociopathic thing. It's rather eugenicist too. This kind of Darwinistic survival of the fittest. If you're rich and you're well off, you'll have a vaccine before it's even introduced to the rest of us. Which is exactly what's really happening in my view. I really do think that that is what's going on. You have this vaccine that's been rolled out, and it's been rolled out to the richest, and they've had their vaccination shots already, many of them, I bet you. And these are rich people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s. This ain't the people in their 90s and 80s who should be getting this first. This ain't even the medical healthcare workers. Yes, sure, some of them are getting the jabs first, the shots first. But they are rich people, I dare to say it, and I will say it, who probably got their shots sometime in early January of this year, while the rest of those in their 90s are still waiting. I know someone who is still waiting, and I found out will be getting their shots next week. And I've also found out that there are people who are in their 60s and their 50s. And I know in California, there is a 65 and over program for vaccination shots. But I know of people who are in their 50s and their 40s. Know of people, I should say, in those groups who've already had a vaccination shot. How is that possible based on, if you're in the United States at least, based on those guidelines? How is that possible? In fact, if you go by UK guidelines, how is that possible? I do want to remind people, if you are, wherever you are in the world, if you have government that cares enough, and Lord knows the last 4 years we didn't here in the United States, there should be a website where you can sign up for alerts on when you will be receiving the vaccination or when it's time for you to receive it. Remember that in addition to signing up and being told by email or text perhaps when it is your age group or your condition, medical condition, and your turn, to receive a vaccine shot, make sure you still make an appointment with your doctor or whomever. If it's a pharmacy, well, it's a pharmacy, and then it's not a problem. And in that way, you can, probably walk in and get these vaccine shots there when they're available, when they become available at pharmacies. But if you are someone with health insurance, of course, you're going to want to make that appointment with a doctor. By the way, I do want to say this for those of you, as it is, we're practically we're right near the very end of January now. It's the 30th. So if you haven't had a medical checkup yet, and I know there's a pandemic going on, please make sure you do. It's good to get this done in the first month or so of the new year, and do so every year. Just a physical, general checkup once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on what your medical conditions are. And of course, keep a tab on your health if you can. Healthcare in the United States is an absolute joke. And I think one of the reasons why on, I believe it was Thursday of this week, President Biden here in the United States signed 2 executive orders, both really dedicated to lowering costs and making sure that there isn't any obstacle to women's reproductive health. And in terms of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, same thing, that there is an enrollment period for people who have not heretofore been able to obtain healthcare coverage and protection. And I think this is a very good thing that President Biden did on Thursday. The executive order allows for a 3-month window from February the 15th of 2021 through to May the 15th of 2021. I think it's a really good idea to open that window up and make it clear to everybody who does not yet have health coverage that they can do so in that 3-month period. Apply through the healthcare.gov website or whatever it is, and make sure you apply, because you know what's going to be happening in May and June. The U.S. Supreme Court is likely to hand down its ruling on the California versus Texas case that was argued before it last year. In fact, it was argued before it on November the 10th, exactly 1 week after the presidential election last year, which, of course, Joe Biden won. So, obviously, he won. Factually, he won. Jeez. So, the point I make is that if you are in the United States and you do not have health insurance, but want health insurance, please take advantage of this February 15th through May 15th window, because that California versus Texas U.S. Supreme Court case is going to be decided and announced sometime in May or June, probably going to be in June, which is traditionally the time of year on the calendar in the United States where the United States Supreme Court hands out its biggest decisions before going into its summer break. And its summer break or summer recess happens at the end of June after they've handed down all these big decisions, which is usually when it happens. And then they will shut up shop for the intervening nearly 4 months, or 3 months certainly, until October, the first Monday in October, when the next Supreme Court term begins. So please take advantage of that February 15th through May 15th, 2021 window. It's so important to monitor your health. And I know that some of you are so busy with so many other things and some crises and some situations and some issues that are so much up in your face and in your heart and on your mind and on your soul that your health perhaps is literally the last thing you are thinking about as you navigate this very tricky stretch of life experience and encounters and situations. I do recognize that. I do want you to understand that I do recognize that the things that I say here when it comes to checking on health is not something that is attainable for everybody who may be listening to me at this point. So I do recognize that, and I am very sensitive to that, believe me. I think at this point, you have to, or we have to, must, imperative, do everything we can to protect ourselves from this coronavirus. And sometimes even that's not enough. But please, in the meantime, wear a mask. Wear 2 masks. I mean, seriously, at this point, we've now got Brazilian strains in the US. South African strains are probably not far away if they're not already here in the US. They're certainly in various parts of the world. So for anyone listening anywhere in the world, please protect yourself. Please wear a mask. Heck, as I said, wear 2 masks if you are doing any kind of physical exercise outdoors. And I hope that you are doing a little bit of exercise and doing it outdoors, unless you are in your home alone and you have a gym in there. But if you're doing exercise outdoors, I hope that you have a mask on when you're doing it, whether it be running, whether it be walking, whether it be doing jumping jacks, outdoor jumping jacks. Please wear a mask. It took me about 3 days to get used to running with a mask on. Took me about 3 days. Just a breathing issue of using and regulating your breathing when you've got this mask on your face, on your nose and mouth. And that took me 3 days to navigate the breathing and get used to the rhythm of the breathing. And then soon you don't even notice that you're breathing naturally with this mask as you're running. I do see, in San Francisco at least, in this corner of California, that more people who are running, are wearing something on their face, wearing a mask. And that is really good. I hope that if you are a runner, you are doing the same. In fact, I would urge you to do the same. There was a time when I wasn't running with a mask on. And my excuse then, and I even said it here on this podcast, weeks and months, I think months ago now, is that, well, I'm running early in the morning, which I do, very early in the morning, and, well, there's not anybody around. Well, my whole thing since that time has been to shift to running, even if I am the only person on the road running, still wear a mask anyway. I mean, I still think that's important to do. If you are like yours truly and who loves to do early morning runs and exercise, whatever, please wear a mask, even if you are literally the only person out there in the dead of night. I mean, seriously, I'm not joking. Wear a mask. Because you've got all these strains, or these variants, perhaps I should say. Variants. This variant, that variant, the grandfather variant, you know what I mean? It's just like everyone. This is very serious. Which really is something that we've got to take seriously. Because it is serious. I mean, how many radio programs, how many news reports, how many online reports do I have to read or hear or see or watch with people saying from their hospital beds, this is serious, people are dying, I can't breathe, it's been horrible. I wouldn't wish this on anybody, not even my worst enemy. I used to believe that this was not real, but it is really real. How many times have I heard that over the last week, let alone the last year? And this is where I want to transition off to. Vaccination. Yes, there are people out there who express skepticism based on a very real, historic, and current truth and fact that They, black people, brown people, Native Americans, have been experimented on for decades and centuries by their government, by the United States government in this specific case that I'm getting at. And that education must not only be told, it must be reconciled with, it must be looked at, and then we have to start looking at, okay, what are we going to do now? And how do we get you to start thinking about the reality that this thing can kill you? One of the ways that has been looked at is that we've seen various politicians getting these shots. President Biden got his shot, one before he became president, one, I believe, after he became president. Perhaps maybe it was one just before he got sworn in. I don't remember. Probably just before he got sworn in. I think it was the Monday of that week, of last week, that he got that second shot. And Vice President Kamala Harris as vice president, literally this week. I think it was back on Tuesday of this week. She got a second shot. It was the Moderna vaccine. I personally know people who have had the Moderna vaccine, and they have told me that it is gold. It has worked so far. I know people who have had this vaccine. I haven't heard from anybody who, the people who I've heard from haven't taken Pfizer. It's been Moderna, as far as I know, all Moderna. Now, Pfizer is out there as well, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. But the whole thing is, how do we get people, some of whom are skeptical, especially black folk, black people? And we have every reason to be skeptical. This isn't just, I don't know. I don't know if I want to take this thing. No. This is deeply held factual bases for doubts. And it's not the kind of doubt that is even in any kind of ballpark like these anti-vaxxers, these rabidly disgusting people who tell you that this is all lies, it's not true, it causes this, it causes that, it's a hoax, da-da. No. Don't dare lump black people in with that crowd over there that says this is all a lie, da-da-da-da, be irresponsible, go out there, have no. The way that you counter all the garbage and all the noise that is coming at you from the TVs, even from the news entities that you trust, is to counter it with truth and facts. Counter it with the stories of the people that are actually going through this damn thing. Sky News has got to stop putting on people like Desmond Swayne, or as I call him, Desmond Swine. That MP who actually has a Sir attached to the front of his name. This is a guy, British MP, Member of Parliament, Conservative, who wore blackface and championed it. And that guy's still in your party, Boris Johnson. Are you going to get rid of him? Are you going to get rid of him, Boris Johnson? You're hemming and hawing, aren't you? This is a public health crisis. This is bigger than that. It's a pandemic. You got nearly 110,000 people dead in the United Kingdom. And you got this raving, crazy, psychopathic prick named Desmond Swayne. Complete ass clown. Telling you, oh no, mask oppression, oh my God. No. Masks are not oppression. Masks are life savers. They are pieces of cloth that save your life. Studies have been conducted all over the world. All over the world. Studies, experiments, you name it. Scientists and doctors worldwide have consistently told you and I, and everyone we know, that mask wearing helps to reduce the spread of the virus. It is, in fact, the most effective tool to use to stop the spread of this virus. It is a dramatic weapon. It really does make a difference when you wear a mask and you keep that mask on and you wear that mask. It helps dramatically to stop the spread of this virus. It really does reduce that spread. So why do you think people are listening to this garbage of Desmond Swain and these other folks who are anti-vaxxers? Now, Desmond Swain says he's not an anti-vaxxer, but he definitely is a skeptic of masks at minimum. And this week he had been saying that the National Health Service, the NHS in the UK, which is really on its knees right now. It's terribly on its knees. The capacity is really through the roof. They literally cannot have any more patients in a lot of these places in the NHS because they are overwhelmed by the sheer volume of people who are coming in. They're treating them in parking lots, in car parks. Can you believe what I am telling you? They are literally, in some of these places in England and other places around the world, they are treating patients in car parks, parking lots, football stadia. They are running out of room. I saw a Sky News report just a few days ago about all of this. I've seen this. You see that literally in parking lots. They have no more room. And the comments of Desmond Swain, oh, the NHS saying that they're up to capacity, that's not true, it's a lie. And Desmond Swain is the liar. What we must do, every time we hear garbage like this, you have a social media account, tweet out the stories of the reality of what's going on, the truth. And that is that you've got places all over the world where doctors are struggling to keep up. They are flooded. They are overwhelmed. They do not have enough hours in a day because so many people are coming to them and they are in a serious way. The doctors are and the patients are. They are dying in doctors' arms. Do you understand what I am saying to the skeptic listening right now? Do you care even about what you are hearing me say? Perhaps you don't, do you? But for the rest of you, you know well what is happening. You see the names of people that you read about. And we need to see those names. We need to see those faces. This is something that I have been talking about for a long time now. We need to see them. If you add the number of people who have died from coronavirus in the US to the number of people who have died from coronavirus in the UK, you have over 500,000 people dead alone in those two countries combined from coronavirus. Over 500,000 people. And globally, over 2 million people have died from coronavirus. I want you to tweet those numbers out to people. I want you to get a story that you've read and tweet that out. These people who say that, oh, this virus isn't real, oh, it's a joke. These are the same people that say that the Holocaust didn't happen, that enslavement didn't happen. These people are the scumbags. And I'm telling you, one of the reasons why a lot of this, I think, is being done, particularly by these politicians, like your Marjorie Taylor Greens, what a despicable human being, like your Desmond Swines, what a despicable human being. Both of them should be thrown out of their parties, should not be in politics, either of them. These are emotional terrorists. That's what they are. They want to terrorize your emotions. They want to tell you no. They want to do a 1984 on you, gaslighting you. No, it's not real. You can't trust your eyes or ears. What you see is not what is happening. Don't believe your lying eyes. No, don't believe it. It's a mirage, you see. It ain't real. You're not even real. That's the kind of swill and nonsense that Sky News and others are throwing out there. And you need to flood the zone by putting out all the stories about all the people who are dying, their families and how they're coping. You need to put that out there on your social media feed. And you need to quote the actual research. Cite it. Put it out there. The numbers plus the research and the people behind the numbers. That's how you fight back against this evil. And the reason, again, why, let me get to it. The reason why they're doing this, I think, why these politicians are doing this, is about money. And the reason why they're being given all this airtime, in my view, cynical or otherwise, is that you've got rich companies, rich corporations who control the media. And they're looking for more scandal and more ratings and more advertising dollars. And those advertising dollars will come a cropper if they don't do something sexy and exciting in quote unquote, right? During the Biden years, because, you know, President Biden, he just ain't a ratings grabber, is he? And that's a horrible choice of words, considering what I've said about President Biden in the past. He just doesn't, let me put it this way, he just doesn't garner ratings, does he now? So we've got to create this swirl around him, because we've got to start creating angles of controversy where there are none. And bingo, let's focus on these irresponsible, derelict, callous, cowardly politicians who can just get up there and say what the F they want without any consequence. And their defense, free speech. Oh, no. This really should not be a case of free speech. It should be a case of you're shouting fire in a crowded theater. And when you're shouting fire in a crowded theater, the United States Supreme Court, at least, does not protect that kind of speech. It does not. And in a global pandemic where over 2 million people have died, 430,000 of them, at least, in the United States, and 120,000 of them, 130,000 of them in the United Kingdom. That is a crowded theater of death. So to shout fire, or to shout vaccines don't mean anything, or to shout masks don't mean anything in countries all over the world where you have death, and you have the highest death rate in the United Kingdom. Roughly 17 people out of every, million? Or whatever the number was. I forget what the out of number was. But the UK has the highest death rate in the world. So to tell me that free speech protects Desmond Swayne is absurd. Boris Johnson, if you thought you had some credibility, you could have a modicum of it if you withdrew the whip from Desmond Swayne. You withdrew the whip, didn't you, in 2020 from what? Some 23 Tory MPs? Why won't you withdraw the whip from Desmond Swayne, who is really impacting and affecting the public health crisis in the NHS and really affecting the way people think about this? And if the media has any responsibility at all, you must shut this garbage down. These lies, you should not be airing this poisonous filth from Desmond Swayne and anyone else, saying that vaccines are this or mask wearing is oppression. I mean, give me a break. He's a privileged bum, and he's getting on the air talking about masks or oppression. It's irresponsible. And then you give him a platform to give his view again? Why don't you give someone who has COVID-19 a platform? Why don't you give, and I get it, you've got stories out there, people on their deathbed saying, don't ever fail to wear a mask. They're telling you, take this seriously. But I mean, once you have a few people, pundits, whatever, one, given the climate that we're in, and have them have 10 minutes to tell you how serious this thing is. I know people who have this virus, as do you. For those of you who really do know, because I do, I know at least 4 people now who have come down with this virus. 4 of them. One of them can hardly speak, completely lost their voice, has had this situation for months now. Another one cannot smell anything, cannot taste anything. This, dear listener, is no joke. You need to fight back on social media with the truth and facts about this virus and what it is doing. And spread the truth and the facts, which are that mask wearing dramatically reduces the rates of infection against this virus. It's even more effective in the long run, or rather in the short term, certainly, and in the long run, than the actual vaccine. Even when you get this vaccine, folks, you're still going to have to wear a mask. And you're going to have to wear one, and you're going to have to physically distance and avoid large crowds and avoid indoor spaces with lots of people in them until this virus has lowered dramatically. We could be talking mask wearing for another 2 or 3 years. Can you live with that? Can you dig it? Can you deal with that? Well, can you dig it? Well, we don't want to be digging anything right now. We want to be living. And let me tell you, one way to do that is to wear a mask. Please, please do it. One of the great acts of love for the upcoming Valentine's Day, include a mask in that Valentine's Day card. I know, isn't it so romantic? Ooh, let me send a mask. But I am not joking. Wear a mask. I see couples do this all the time. You've seen them. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you aren't. I hope you're not. But maybe you are. You've seen these people. One of them wears a mask, the other one doesn't. How the hell does that work? How can you both be wearing matching clothing, but one of you wears a mask and the other one does not? I mean, human beings, we are something, aren't we? Welcome back. This is all about money. I mean, I think, again, I'm making the point more concretely. This is all about money. This is why I think you're getting all this anti-vaxxer stuff and all this misinformation, all this lies, is because people are looking to make money. And in chaos, people steal. When you create a furor, when you create an uproar, when you create confusion in the masses, it gives those in power an opportunity to steal. We've seen this happen with foreign policy in Iraq. We've seen it happen because that is what happened in Iraq. You had the lies, the misinformation. Oh, he has weapons of mass destruction. Oh. When we knew that he didn't. The evidence was right there. And then they captured him, but the damage had been done. And then the oil had been stolen, and the stock prices rose up. Not rosebud, rose up. Rocketed through the roof. Halliburton. Darth Vader. The insurgents are in the throes of, whatever the throes are. Certainly wasn't the throes of passion. But the point is that in chaos, people steal. Create a confusion over here, while over there, their hands are in the till. And they won't notice. You won't notice. Rather, that they have their hands in the till, and they're sneaking off and skulking off with all that money, while you're looking at what's going on over there. There's always the 1-2, right? There's the shiny object over there and the stealing over here. Or behind you, or in front of you, or around you. Like what James Baldwin said, and I like to quote James Baldwin, those of you who don't listen to this podcast regularly. And I'm going to paraphrase him here, actually. Paraphrasing him. If you don't know what's gone on before you, you do not know what is going on around you. And that's so very true, what James Baldwin is saying there. I'm telling you, this is all about money. I think a lot of this stuff, this libertarian, and I know I have people who are libertarians who follow me on Twitter at @thepopcorn, REEL. But libertarianism is so dangerous. And when you say, well, the free market can do what it wants, that free market does not exist in a vacuum. There is a system that architects that market. And it's a capitalist system. And if that capitalist system has been responsible for enslavement of black folk and oppression of people, that ain't something that I want to get down with, and nor should you. I don't want that. You are telling people that they are free to be irresponsible because there's no regulation to police them. And this has been on forever, whether in the UK or here in the US or anywhere else. This fever for deregulating, and this fever in the morning, fever home. Well, I forget the lyrics. You know the song. Fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. You know the song. Come on. It's a good song, by the way. But really, that's what this is now. It's this fever, this march toward, I'm just going to be blah and just tell you that I want to steal from you. I mean, that's literally what these folks are saying now. Whether it's the Taylor Greens or the Swains or any of these scumbags who are telling you literally to your face, we're going to have an insurrection. Do you know, by the way, that Roger Stone was saying this stuff in at least 2018? Michael Moore's film, Fahrenheit 11/9, there's a clip in that film, and it could have been from a news broadcast from before 2018 for all I know. But he said, try it, in reference to impeaching Donald Trump. Try it. You'll have spasms of violence in this country, an insurrection, the likes of which you've never seen. Yeah, even he's talking about insurrection. Not even, that's exactly out of his playbook. So you don't think that people like that were in on this? I keep telling you all, this was an inside systemic attack, an inside systemic terrorist attack. And you are going to find that out. The information continues to come out, and it will, some more. But I digress. This is all about money. You wouldn't have these jackass, conspiracy nut politicians, sociopaths, psychopaths telling you all this garbage if there was not some monetary implication behind it. I'm telling you, Brexit had monetary implications behind it for the people making the money. Those at the top. The Crispin O'Days, the Aaron Bankses, and I can go on and on, Nigel Farage, all these people made a ton of money off of this disaster capitalism. That's exactly what this is. And I'm telling you, this pandemic's the same blooming thing. This ain't a conspiracy. This isn't, it's just plain common sense. And I know common sense is not common anymore, dear listener. I do know that. But think about this critically. This is about critical thinking, not even common sense, because common sense ain't common anymore. We have found that out over the last few years, right? Think critically about this one, please. This has to be about money. And they're willing to kill you to get their money, to get companies to throw money in their campaign coffers. How evil. But it's not surprising because that's what the system is and that's what it does. And that's what capitalism does. And I am not railing against capitalism. Yes, there's actually capitalism that is beneficial, right? That when shared amongst people, and people will say, oh, that's socialism. But I'm talking about when people get a fair share of that capitalism and it is not used to oppress people. Yeah, there's some benefits about that. I like people who aren't oppressed. I like it when people aren't oppressed, I should say. I would prefer that in this world. I'm sure you would too. Or maybe some people wouldn't. But I'm saying that society is stronger when you have more people playing a role, more people contributing to the economic stability and security of the nation or the planet that they are on. Everybody benefits. When everybody has work and a job and this and that, and they're getting paid, everybody benefits. And the society does. The companies do too, by the way. But of course, you've got the greedy lot, that lot at the top, that 1%. Some of them are actually quite humanitarian and charitable. But there is some of that group who ain't. And they are all about just putting money away in their coffers for 5 generations. What they've got literally can take care of 5 whole generations of people without blinking an eye. So the remedy is to seek a better, healthier self in 2021. And the remedy is to wear a mask, wear 2 masks, wear gloves, physically distance, sign up with your state or local or both websites, state government websites, or your city government websites. Sign up with them for updates on when you can get this vaccine. If you do not have healthcare in the United States, sign up for it. I believe it's healthcare.gov. You can find that out through wh.gov, but healthcare.gov, I believe, is the website. And you can sign up if you are not already enrolled from February the 15th of this year through May the 15th of this year. And I want you to fight back. If you see garbage on social media, or even if you don't, regarding the vaccines and regarding people saying to you, well, mask wearing doesn't do anything. And I have a friend who says this. I really, it's just incredible talking about, oh, well, masks don't really stop the spread. And this is just, I had to tell him, no. We can at least agree that wearing and doing more things is better than doing less. So that was his way of kind of agreeing with me, and I coming to a compromise there with him, because he was saying, oh, no, the masks don't really. And he has 3 kids. But anyway, he doesn't listen to this podcast, so that's okay. Don't tell him that I said this. But at least he and I came to the observation that I made to him, which was that doing more things to safeguard yourself is better than doing less. And he agreed on that, essentially contradicting himself, right? Because if you agree that you can do more things and that more things are better when it comes to preventing coronavirus from striking than less things, you've essentially argued against yourself. I mean, you have. So I won the argument. But it's not about winning and losing. It's about educating and activating. And that's some of what I hope that you think I am doing here. If there's one thing at all that you take away from this episode, or from any of the others, is that you find yourself learning something a little bit differently, thinking about something a little bit differently, and also educating yourself on being educated on something that you may not have understood or realized. But even more than all of that, that you activate yourself. Activate yourself. This woke nonsense ain't cutting it. You know, people dying out here. Woke, I don't know who made that word up, but it needs to be retired. You have to activate yourself. That is what you have to do. And you've got to start thinking, dear listener, especially if you're in the US, about 2022. That's only next year. Think about what you're seeing. The noise, the news, the Taylor Greens, Marjorie, her first name, the Boberts, the Bobbits, the Palins, bringing their guns into the house and don't want to go through the magnetometer. The no, we don't want, no, that's oppressive. These people are making 200,000, 300,000, 175,000, whatever it is a year they're making, but they're oppressed. Ooh, God. I'm only making $10 a year. I'm so oppressed. I mean, that's how they're behaving. 500, I don't know how much they make a year. It's at least $200,000. Most people in the United States make under $50,000 a year, under $50,000 a year. And you've got these privileged, well, I'll just leave it there. I want you to think about 2022, because these are the people who are going to be running the party. They are running the Republican Party. They've been running that party now for 50, 60 years. And this is the quote-unquote logical manifestation of what that has wrought and brought. And the House Democrats, I'm going to talk about this in a subsequent episode, and the Democrats at large will have to buck their ideas up, or they will get their ideas you-know-what up. And they will lose the House next year if they do not start to make some radical changes. That's why we have to have an agenda to keep pushing these people. Biden included, who, by the way, has started off very well here. But there's still a lot of things that have to be done and a lot of things we've got to push back on. Call your senators. Remember, call those Republican senators, 202-225-3121, 202-224-3121. Either of the numbers will do. Do not listen to the news telling you, oh, it's a done deal. I want you to call these senators, these Republican senators. Go to senate.gov to do that. Find their names and call those numbers. Tell them to vote to convict. We have to do this. We have to be the ones that activate this agenda. And we need to press Biden and Harris. Because I'm telling you, and press Pelosi too in the House, if you don't do this stuff and you sit on your laurels, I said this the other night on the Twitter at the Popcorn REEL. If you sit on your laurels, folks, you will have Marjorie Taylor Blooming Green and the rest of these gun-toting Republicans carrying guns in your chamber and being in control of the House of Reps. And you will have your Josh Hawleys and your Ted Cruzes in control of the Senate in the next couple of years. I'm telling you, it's up to us to do this work. 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. Believe me, it doesn't have to be an hour, but we've got to stay active. That is most of all what we must do. And fight the garbage and put out the facts. Put out the facts. Learn the facts. Learn the facts. Educate yourself. Please. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a day. It has to be please. So that when some idiot comes up to you and says, I don't have to wear a mask, just refer them to something. Or ignore them, right? Which I have recommended you do. And then on social media, just put out what the facts are, what you've learned. Educate yourself. There are lots of people who still don't know basic things about this virus. And I get it. It changes all the time. But you've got to be aware. And even if you're not, please, for the love of God, man, wear a mask. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar.
The B117 variant that was first detected in the UK has now been confirmed in 379 cases in 29 states as of January 27th. Yesterday, South Carolina public health officials notified the public about the first 2 documented cases of the B1351 variant, which was officially first detected in South Africa and now in the United States. These cases were identified in different parts of the state and not believed to be epidemiologically linked. They each did not have any travel history. We are still learning more about their exposures. And earlier this week, Minnesota identified the first U.S. case of the P1 variant. This is the variant that originally emerged in Brazil. CDC will continue communicating with international, state, and local partners to monitor the presence and impact of variants in the United States and around the world. And we are actively working with national reference laboratories, state health departments, and researchers across the country to improve our understanding of these variants and how they may impact the pandemic. We also know viruses mutate, and they tend to mutate in ways that are advantageous to the virus. We expected this, and this is why I feel compelled to underscore for you the need for each of us to remain steadfast in our commitment to taking all of the appropriate steps to protect ourselves and our communities. You're going to hear me say this a lot, so here it is. Wear a mask. Stay 6 feet apart. Avoid crowds and poorly ventilated spaces. Also, now is not the time to travel.
Now there's a new way to get in touch with the Politicrat Daily Podcast by email at politicratpod@gmail.com. That's politicratpod@gmail.com.